to summarize this day, we welcome the organizers for this conference back on stage. Please welcome. So, what an interesting day. How to conclude this? Well, I give that to you. And specifically on the question, what have you learned during this day and what is your take-home message? Can you please start there, Göran?
Yeah, okay. I think it has been a very good day. I think what I have learned is I didn't doubt that, though, that I think these instruments are quite important. And I think they are a key mechanism which is constantly evolving, which I think is an important thing. Another thing is that reflexivity, that is evaluation, is very important. And I think the fact that we have this day, when we have seen things that I think some of us, including myself, have not yet heard before about the other mechanisms. And also, I think maybe some of those evaluating the different schemes didn't know too much about the other schemes. So now we know much more about these, which I think is an important thing. And I think it's also very important for the different centers that continuously having that reflexivity built in. And there can be said much about that. And then I agree very much with what I think was Peter Aronsson who said, okay, now we see these instruments, they seem to be quite important in themselves. But on the whole, I think we still have a systemic evaluation to be done. And there are many mechanisms in there that I am curious of, and that is how is the strategic sort of management, strategic leadership happening? Is it? I think it is. Who is running it? I'm not sure, but I had a very interesting talk over lunch that it seems that there are resources and individuals capable of tying together these strategic research areas with these different kinds of centers to a greater whole, sort of a strategic, which I don't think comes by itself. I don't think it's structured everywhere, but I think it's a very important thing. But you cannot see that if you don't investigate it, which I don't think we have done so much. I think there are issues after this. How do you get to strategic mobilization? That the strategic research areas could be one thing, or the strategic research in combination with this. Because we have those societal challenges which I think are nudging us too little, and then you need to really mobilize if we're going to face them seriously. It's not only observing them. So I think we need to do things there which require leadership on quite another level than these centers alone. So systemic evaluation, yes, putting these into another layer of context. But this is, I think they are important, and we have learned that. I think we're now on a collective basis, which is higher than it was before we started today.
Very good, thank you. So you can continue there, Erik.
Yes, and from Formas, we have been involved in contributed to some of the centers in the Linnaeus grants, and we are very happy with the evaluation. We believe that the results are important, and that we can see that so many have continued even after the finance has stopped. And I would say that the results from the evaluation and most of the discussions here is that show the importance of the long-term perspective. And it's important to give the researchers the opportunity to build up this exciting and important research and collaborations as well. And as we have heard from the evaluation committee as well, it is difficult to actually establish this kind of research and collaboration without this long-term vision. And it is also important to bear in mind it's actually the governments and also our authorities. It's our role to have a long-term vision and to take some risk as well. And excellence it is crucial to have excellent research to establish and maintain high quality. But But we should also bear in mind that we have invested quite a lot of money the past decade in research. And we saw today that there are numbers that are indicating, saying that we are not top class, world class in all areas. So we really need to carefully analyze which kind of strategy or which kind of funding streams that are the most efficient one. And that discussion, I think, will go on. And another aspect, I'm glad that Göran brought that up as well. I believe that we still have this discussion here about excellence and excellent research, and which is very much separated from the relevance that it should deliver to the society. It's like two different pillars, which I believe is a problem instead of an integrated approach. We have huge challenges in front of us. We are far from reaching the Sustainable Development Goals. We have the Paris Agreement that we really need to speed up to reach that goal as well. And other large challenges as well. And we must not forget that much of our competitiveness builds on our reliable, excellent research and innovation. And so my main take-home message would be that we need to be even better in explaining why research and excellent research is needed, and its role in solving our great challenges, and how these two aspects actually relate to each other.
All right, lessons learned and take-home messages. I think one important lesson learned today is that it pays off to be systematic in looking on the effects of our different ways of funding research, so how our instrument works. So the meta lesson of today is that this was a good thing to do, these evaluations. But of course, one take-home message and one lesson of today is that these centers of excellence seem to have worked pretty well, as far as we can tell from today. And there are very clear similarities, I think, between the evaluations that are reassuring. Still, we need to dig deeper. There are a lot of things that we need to look into more details, and there have been arguments here on the stage saying that we should perhaps compare with other groups. I mean, if you pick the best researchers, there is no surprise that they continue to be very good. So what if we compared to other researchers that didn't get these centers, and what are sort of the added value? But I also think a take-home message for me personally, since we're going to lead a new review of 3 centers of excellence, is how do we best carry out evaluations of this kind? What is the best way of doing it? Is it the best way to do final evaluation, or should we be more having a dialogue along the way? How do we best set up this dialogue then? Perhaps we should look more on organization, leadership, internal structures, and the structures to the surrounding university than on the output in terms of papers, if that is an important outcome of these centers. And indeed, if it was possible to look at contrafactuals, that would be very interesting. And of course, the final issue is the way forward. Should we put large amounts of our research funding into centers of excellence? And I think, well, that is not a yes or no answer, I think. I think one of the key messages that several speakers today has brought up is the long-term promise that this centers of excellence have given. You get quite a substantial amount of time, 10 years. That could be applied in other forms of funding, of course. That could be applied within the 10-year programs. That could be applied in smaller program grants on an individual level if long-term grants is actually the key. So I think there are not necessarily yes or no on this. It's also important to know that the Forte centers typically were less money than the Linnaeus centers. So the level of funding isn't fixed either. So there are more lessons to be gained from these experiences. So there are a number of things to take home, I think, from today.
Okay, thank you. So if nothing really bad happens during the last 3 or 4 minutes, I say I will leave this room with a smile on my face. I'm happy. I'm happy with the way the conference worked out. I'm also very happy with the way where and I'm speaking now on behalf of the Research Council, the evaluation of the Linnaeus program went. So big thanks to the panels. There was something that Mats Benner said in his presentation, that we went back and asked the centers questions. I think this is really important to go back and sort of ask this sometimes not so easy questions that are not so easy to answer, and doing that at a stage after actually the centers have stopped. So again, I mean, that has said here also that I'm sure there is room for improvement concerning how to evaluate centers of excellence, and I think we will also have the discussions with the panel now when they have finished their nice work, which kind of improvements should be done. Let me, because we are running late here, focus on the future. So what will happen now? This report will not collect dust, at least not within the coming months or year or so. I have already asked our scientific councils to bring up the report on their next meetings and discuss the recommendations and so. And I'm looking at my chairman now. It will also be discussed on our next board meeting when it's fresh. Of course, at the end of the day, it comes down to optimizing the use of our budget allocations. Right. This is what we should do, and we have a number of funding instruments. We have to think about how to combine them in a way that it also boils down to the goals of research that has been mentioned several times here. So we should think about that optimal use of our budget allocations in combination with the goals of research, which is the best way to achieve these goals. And I think then that when it comes to, if we will have a call on centers of excellence, it really comes down to selection criteria. When we have a call, and how should we select the proposals among those that apply. And I think that we could perhaps have another workshop discussing these selection criteria, because they will be extremely important for if we can reach the goals of the research. So financing strategies is something that we speak about Research Council. We will certainly include the possibility to use the Center of Excellence instrument in that case. I got an idea today, and this is just my own idea. When I saw from your presentation the Nordic, that we already collaborate so much, why not have a common call among the Nordic countries on Center of Excellence to compete at a slightly broader scale? That may maybe bring up the quality of the research in all the Nordic countries. We have actually already started that. We have now a call on interdisciplinary research. It's organized mainly by Denmark and Sweden, and that was really a success. So many good applications. So maybe one could sort of extend that idea a little bit to include also centers of excellence. So I think that this is all I would say, and that's my take-home message.
Thank you.
Would you like to end now?
I just want to thank, on behalf of the Swedish co-organizers of this conference, and thank you all for coming, and also thank you to all our viewers that have been following the conference online. Thank you all. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
And I would like to thank both of you for taking care of us during this day, and maybe particularly Maria, because you have not only taken care of this day, but also have been the project leader for the evaluation of the layers. That has already been mentioned, but you have done it so nicely. So a big applause to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.